Laughing with the Storm presents Fireplace Magic. Written by Wyatt Hall.
Julie pulled into the front yard of the cabin for what she hoped would be the last time. It was rustic, with bunks on a screened-in porch and an outhouse in a straight shot off the front door. It was co-owned by a friend who said she could come when she wanted, and lent her a key that had long been forgotten. When she got out of the car, she paused to see if any of the lights of the other cabins nearby were on, or if she could hear anyone. All that greeted her was the darkness and the burble of the river drifting by the other side of the driveway. She pulled a headlamp from her jacket pocket and put it on. After grabbing her backpack, her cheap sleeping pad, and her bag of Chick-fil-A, she headed inside. Wooden slatted bunks covered the far wall inside, stacked 3 high. It was colder than outside, since no real sunlight hit the cabin during the winter days. Julie got the 2 shrink-wrapped bundles of firewood and the fire starter log from the car and set to work building a fire. She set up a square frame of wood like a Lincoln log cabin. It only took her a minute to get the wood to catch from the fire starter, as opposed to the first couple times she came here and spent hours using napkins, lighter fluid from under the kitchen sink, and green sticks from the backyard. Once the logs caught, she sat at the one table in the cabin in a rickety chair and ate her dinner, staring at the fire. She tossed the bag among the logs when she was done. From her backpack, Julie pulled a small bottle of whiskey and a thin manila folder labeled Rob, and sat on the dusty floor in front of the fire, setting the 2 objects to the side. She'd noticed the second time she'd come to the cabin that fires talk if you get them going. They tell tales that you somehow already know. They snap and pop for emphasis. They chatter. They thrill or whisper as the story calls for. Julie had been mildly afraid of them before, but she liked fires now, and if she ever lived in a house, she was going to have a fireplace. After getting lost in the fire for a while, she opened up the bottle and took a swig. With a cobweb poker, she cleared out the center underneath the Lincoln logs, creating an empty spot among the orange embers that glowed like an old oven. She flipped open the folder. On top was a picture of Julie grinning foolishly next to a handsome man with a strong chin and green, knowing eyes. The picture in her hand had started to curl in the corners from years of being stuck on photo boards and in cramped drawers. Julie took a 3rd drink and placed the photo in the niche ringed by embers. It curled in on itself like a hand making a fist. After several minutes, the picture was indistinct from the ash surrounding it. Julie took another pull on the bottle and got the next item from the folder, a lease. She slowly undid the staples on the document and set them on the side of the fire. Page by page, punctuated by sips of whiskey, Julie placed the lease of the apartment they'd had together underneath the log frame. Each page burned down to cinders before she rested the next one on it. The last item she pulled out was a missing persons report. At the bottom, in the Department Officials Only section, the status was labeled Resolved. It had only taken 3 weeks for them to find him, 2 states away, happy, healthy, and married to another woman. A part of her wished the police had never found him, so she'd have been spared the knowledge that she was just a side piece. She placed the folder on top of the log frame, because that was all that was left. When the center was nothing but ash, she took out a plastic mug from her backpack, as well as some herbs in unlabeled pouches. The side of the mug had a sloth hanging from a tree branch, with the words, "Wake me when it's Friday," written underneath. She measured out contents into the mug from each bag with a metal spoon. 1 teaspoon from the green leafy herbs, 2 from the red berries, a half from the wispy yellow roots. With the ash pan next to the fire, she carefully collected the cinders of every item she'd burned and poured them into the mug as well. She ground them into a powder with the spoon, then spat in it twice and mixed it further. Finally, she poured half the remaining whiskey in the mug and swirled it. Before she raised it to her lips, she checked the fire to make sure she cleared all the ashes of the objects out of the pile. Julie added 2 logs onto the fire, because this next bit was going to take a minute. She didn't want the fire to be dead when she woke up. The come down and the hangover were hard enough without waking up to a freezing room. The logs aligned and the fire stoked, Julie put the mug to her lips and drank. It tasted like she was licking a burnt log covered in whiskey and moss and dirt. She gulped it down with a wince to be done with it and set the mug to the side. The fire snapped as she wiped her lips and rinsed her mouth out with a tiny bottle of Listerine from her pocket. It helped her not wake up with barbecue breath. And so, the waiting began. It only took a minute or 2 to kick in, but for that minute, everything became so loud. The creak of her body on the wood floor, the crackle of the fire, the breathing of the embers as they sucked in oxygen. Her chest bobbed up and down, knowing she wouldn't be ready for it when it hit. Above the fireplace on the mantel, a spider was spinning its web spoke by spoke, and the web started spinning too, slowly like a clogged drain, until something unplugged from the pipes of her mind and the drain began to spin faster. The wall behind it started spinning too, and now the whole room is spinning faster and faster like a tilt-a-wheel at a state fair, and she has to lay down, otherwise she'll be thrown out of the room. It's spinning so fast and it's so hot in here, and her clothes are off now, and she's lying on a bed, she's giggling in his ear. He has her in his wiry arms, and she knows he'll never let her go. She pauses to breathe in his smell, to let it wash over her. "What are you thinking?" Rob says, stroking her hair. He's naked too, their legs intertwined. Strings of warm yellow LED lights creep up like ivy on the railings of her white metal bed frame. The bed frame bars are rounded and a little wobbly. Behind the frame is a large cloth mandala, red and gold and blue, with small holes burned in it from various misadventures. Between the lights, the mandala, and the hash, a halo forms around Rob's head, slowly spinning. He looks like a saint. She moves her head back half an inch on the pillow and marvels. "Just counting my blessings." "Can I ask you something?" he says, tentatively. "Of course. And it's okay to say no." "Just ask," she says, cupping his chin with her hand. Rob pauses, his green eyes cast in shadow from the halo behind him. "Do you love me?" Rob breathed in, exhaled, and breathed in again. "Because I've been feeling this way for a while now, and I can't hold it inside anymore. If you..." There was a long pause. Julie lifted her head to look at Rob. His lips were moving, his eyes were soft, but instead of his voice coming out, only a crackling sound emerged. It had no rhythm and was punctuated at intervals by snaps and hisses. Her brow furrowed, and she watched his mouth. She could almost hear something being said, but she couldn't make out any words. Julie reached out to touch his lips. She flinched back, her fingers burning. Julie woke up on the cabin floor, curled up in a ball, clutching her hand. It throbbed against her chest. The fire was still roaring as she'd left it. She glanced around the cabin, and the tables and bunks swam in her vision. What the hell? It was supposed to last for hours. It was supposed to last her until the morning, and it only lasted for what felt like 10 minutes. What the hell? She looked around for the herbal pouches. They were still there, but the file was gone. She checked her backpack, checked the floor of the cabin and the bunks. She wasn't dreaming. She'd really burned the last of it. But instead of a final goodbye, all she'd gotten was a glimpse, a blip, a half second. What had gone wrong? Why wasn't it working? It was the last she had of him. It had to work. Julie closed her eyes and lay down on the floor again, willing herself back into the bedroom to hear Rob say just one more time that he loved her, that he couldn't sleep at night, that she was the one he'd been waiting for all these years, that he wanted to know if she felt the same way, and for her to say that she did, unburdened by the yoke of all the things he'd done since that night. To hear, for the first time, just one more time, that there was nobody that had ever meant to him what she did, and to share that she felt the same, to soak in the warm bath of love and light that was the beginning. and now the magic had failed her, though she had saved the strongest items for last. There was supposed to be a catharsis. That's what the backdoor pharmacist had called it, a potion of catharsis. And here she was, drunk, with nothing left to burn except herself, the past still with its hooks in her. It was unfair, it was cruel, and there was no one to take it out on. Rob, long gone, the pharmacist 100 miles away, so she pounded the floor. She was owed that much, and even then it was taken from her. Her hands beat on the wooden boards, beat them again and again because there was no culpable face to bury themselves in, no one to blame but herself, and she was done with that. So she beat the floor ferociously, beat it savagely with both hands, the boards bending under her fists. She was making so much noise somebody within 100 feet could probably hear her. Then, with a crack and a groan of old wood, Julie's stomach turned as the floorboards and herself slowly tilted from horizontal to slanted to upright. Something in her mind had turned wholly perpendicular. Newly planted on unsteady feet, Julie stands before a gorgeously stained wooden door of a very nice house. She goes back to beating on the door. A little too loud, but this has to be the place. This is where the officers said that Rob lived, and his car is in the driveway, so it's time for answers. Knock, knock, open up. She is going to get answers from that bastard, come hell or high water. The stained cherry door opens to reveal a woman in her mid-30s. She wears an apron and smells of cut onions. Hi, can I help you? Hi, I'm looking for Rob. He's not home right now. The woman pauses, looking Julie up and down, then extends a hand warmly. I'm Sarah, his wife, and you are? The warmth is unexpected. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. She had a whole dialogue planned, a rant, a diatribe, but this woman smells like cinnamon and talcum powder. You can't yell at someone who smells like that. Sorry, I'm Ruth. I work with Rob over at the office. Julie puts on a smile and shakes her hand. Hi, Ruth. Nice to meet you. And it's nice to finally meet somebody from Rob's work. He's usually so quiet about it. I think you're the first colleague of his I've met in years. We're a busy bunch. It's nice to meet you too, Sarah. This is wrong. This person seems friendly, not jealous, not bitter. Any idea when he might be getting back? He said he had some files for me to look over, and I wanted to see if I could get a head start on them if I could. Shoot, he flew off to Houston to meet with a client. Said he wouldn't be back until Sunday. Sarah cocks her head. Is it really work, or is he on to the next person? Rob didn't mention anything about leaving any files. But if you tell me what to look for, I can take a gander around his office. A gander, southern, willing to help. Either she knows everything and is somehow, in some weird way, okay with it, or she knows absolutely nothing. It should be a manila folder with a couple memos in it. The file's called Sanderman. It's got copies of a contract related to our new client over in Nashville. How quickly the lies come. It isn't hard when folks give you an opening. One just stacks on the next. Was that how it started with Rob? Is Julie even the first he's lied to? I have to know if she knows, she thinks in the moment. And if she doesn't know, I have to tell her. Men may be animals, but women don't have to be. Maybe I can comfort her in the way I wasn't. Sanderman. Okay, give me just a minute. Sarah moves to go in and stops. Oh, where are my manners? Come on in, take a seat in our living room. I'll be back in a jiffy. Inside is a small atrium, with a living room to the right. Sarah walks in her fluffy lion house slippers down the hallway and upstairs. On the dark, hardwood floor of the living room, Julie sees a bright yellow toy. A part of her recognizes the white furniture and paint aesthetic of the room, absently notes the multiple photos that look like Rob and Sarah and others, but the yellow toy lurks there, tucked into the shadows under the edge of the coffee table, like an animal huddled out of the rain. Julie steps inside to get a better look at it. It's 3 yellow rings on a blue stand, toppled over but still on the stand like a puffy Christmas tree on its side. She reaches down to pick it up. It's wet and sticky. Around the corner, there's a soft burble. Julie freezes. Again, the soft burble comes, this time rising and falling in breath, accompanied by a moan. It sounds like a complaint, a very small complaint without syllables. On the balls of her feet, Julie steps towards the corner to find the source. A white basket sits on the far counter of the kitchen, a small blanket with pink elephants and yellow ducklings draped over its side. The basket rocks a little back and forth. Julie walks over to the basket. Julie gasps. Inside is a baby dressed in a pink onesie with unicorns and dragons who couldn't be more than 6 months old. The girl is awake and staring at her, burbling. She has a cone of brown hair and green eyes that seem to know her. It has been just over a year since she's seen Rob. He was distant and gone more often on business the last 2 months before he left. Julie has scoured that period in her mind for clues as to what caused him to leave, what little things she has done, what might have set him off, where she might have driven him away. She touches the baby girl's bassinet. Guilt washes down her spine like a cold, damp rag. Julie is the interloper here, and suddenly she sees herself perhaps as Sarah sees her, a stranger in her own life. The longer she stays here, the more likely she is to break something. She sets her hands on the side of the bassinet, steadying herself. Did he make the choice to cut it off because of this child? Did he change because of her? Is he really in Houston now on business, or is he back to his old games with someone new? The baby reaches up and grips her fingertips. Julie almost jumps out of her skin and tries not to scream. There is not one innocent here, but potentially 3. Julie, his wife, and his daughter. Telling Sarah will change all of their lives, and not just hers. The baby squeezes her finger. Julie shudders and stifles a sob. Be good, little lady, and be careful of handsome men with green eyes. Julie walks out silently. That's why he cut it off, she tells herself. She shuts the door firmly. It has to be. He focused on his family. But he's away on work again. What if he isn't telling the truth? What will it take to get him to stay? Another child every 9 months? What the hell is so wrong with the women in his life? His beautiful, kind wife, his adorable daughter, or even just Julie, any of them? Why can't he stay? Why? Julie manages to make it around the corner, out of sight of the house, before she sits down on the curb and just cries. Tears mix with the beads of sweat running down her temples. She begins to baste in the late summer afternoon there in Savannah. Finally, she stops and shivers all over, feeling disgusting and damp and discarded, like a used condom. There is a mild breeze which, when it fades, only leaves her wanting more comfort. Everything is hot. The air, her face, the concrete, even her shoes are hot. And for a moment, something became clear to her in the dream or memory or whatever this was, in a way that hadn't been at the time. It had never been about her. The breakup, or the hiding, or really even the entire relationship with Rob. She'd done nothing wrong. The only crime she'd committed was loving someone who didn't seem capable of loving her, perhaps even capable of honest love at all, and that was no crime at all. In between the sounds of a car idling by a street over, kids squealing in a backyard somewhere, of cicadas buzzing in the trees, Julie swears she can hear the crackle and pop of a fire going somewhere. She watches as the heat waves rise from the asphalt in a blur, and she waits, knowing the memory will end at some point. She soaks in the heat of the summer day and of the fire, letting it wash over her.
Laughing with the Storm Presents is narrated by Ted Hogeman and produced and edited by Orange Line Sound Design. If you like what you heard here, go to laughingwiththestorm.net to hear more genre-bending stories that celebrate the dread and wonder of existence.